The greatest threat to our planet is the belief that someone else will save it. Many companies view environmental initiatives as a burden on profits, leading them to neglect important sustainability efforts. On the other hand, lean initiatives tend to receive more attention because of the proven success in improving productivity and efficiency by reducing waste. What if we could integrate environmental practices with lean and create a more efficient and sustainable business model that benefits both the environment and your bottom line? Hi, I'm Sam Yankelevich. Join me in this course and learn how to leverage lean to streamline your environmental efforts and maximize cost savings. Happy profits and happy planet. If you think the economy is more important than the environment, try holding your breath while counting your money. I wish that quote by Professor Guy McPherson from the University of Arizona would inspire managers to be more considerate of our environment. But the reality is that the economy, or rather profit, in most cases outranks the needs of our planet. I think there's an opportunity for a both-and solution instead of an either-or solution. I mean, we can both protect our environment and at the same time improve profits. That's the kind of magic that happens when lean thinking meets environmental sustainability. Yes, you heard it right. We're talking about how businesses can reduce waste, both environmental and monetary, while boosting their bottom line. Lean thinking, as you might know, is all about cutting out waste and streamlining processes to create more value for customers. And what about environmental waste? In many operations, there are hidden environmental wastes lurking in the corners of your processes, silently racking up costs, impacting profits, and harming our planet. This is where lean principles can help, by shining a bright light on these sneaky offenders. Lean is about learning to see and eliminating waste. It's like putting on a pair of special glasses for your business. Sure, you might be great at spotting the obvious stuff like overproduction, excess inventory, or defects. But what about environmental waste that might be hiding in plain sight? Like, for example, heaps of unused materials, excessive energy consumption, and hazardous chemicals quietly eating away at both your profits and the planet. Not cool, right? By marrying lean thinking with environmental initiatives, we can create a powerhouse of positive change. Imagine slashing your chemical usage by 30% or energy consumption by 15% and saving gallons and gallons of water. In this course, you'll get to hear how some businesses have achieved these benefits. In addition, this lean environmental integration can give your business a competitive edge. How? Customers today are not just looking for great products. They're looking for products that reflect their values, which often includes buying products and services from organizations that practice environmental sustainability. So by reducing environmental impacts, you can attract new customers and with this growth, improve your profitability. When it comes to profit and the environment, it doesn't have to be an either-or decision. By embracing lean principles and keeping an eye on environmental waste, your business can both save money and boost efficiency and make the world a better place. Picture the following conversation between Janice, a lean practitioner, Boyd, an EHS environmental health and safety manager, and Alice, the COO, Chief Operating Officer of the company they work for. The three are part of a larger team meeting to develop their strategy for the coming year. Alice, the COO, has already stated one very clear goal: to achieve additional cost reductions and improve the company's profitability to increase shareholder value. Not too different from many organizations, right? After all, profits are needed to keep the company running and fuel future growth. As people went around the room pitching their ideas on cost cutting, the conversation turned to Boyd, the EHS manager. While everyone agreed that for safety, no cost cutting was expected, there were concerns about budgets related to ensuring compliance of environmental requirements. Because Boyd's expertise was mostly technical about the global impact of environmental waste and hazardous materials, he was not focused on costs and stumbled a bit with his presentation. That's when Janice, the lean expert, joined in the conversation. She had an idea that could help with both environmental sustainability and at the same time drive cost reductions. How? Janice had recently spent some time walking the shop floor with Boyd, helping solve a few minor problems related to leaks and spills of liquids and a minor accident in the transportation of hazardous acid. In her mind, while these were important opportunities to reduce the risk of accidents and environmental escapes, she saw a chance to deal with the other wastes not typically addressed by lean thinking. Janice suggested that in order to drive cost reductions in their environmental programs, she could join forces with Boyd's EHS team and include the waste streams they focus on into the scope of lean. For example, she suggested they could use the same lean process of defining what adds value and what doesn't. Then, with standardized work, they could calculate how much material is supposed to be used for each specific product and compare it to how much is actually used. Similarly, for energy and water used by equipment, how much is the calculated standard and how much is actually being consumed? In addition, together, they could work toward reducing the high cost of hazardous waste removal and also look for ways to help operations prevent contamination from leaks and spills. In a nutshell, by aligning EHS and lean, they could further reduce overall waste, improve profitability, and at the same time maintain a strong focus on environmental sustainability. Alice, the COO, not only welcomed the ideas, but suggested they should take a walk together so she could see for herself the environmental opportunity. Profit is to achieve a better understanding of her social responsibility, in addition to her essential focus on profitability. In my experience, profit is still a focus in most organizations, as it should be, to guarantee its survival and to help preserve and generate new jobs. Environmental issues, however, are often one of the last things top management focuses on. In this case, Janice was able to address the need for improved profit by showing how environmental waste could be included in the profit equation by aligning environmental sustainability with lean thinking. Not a bad combination, wouldn't you say? A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. That's a quote from Lao Tzu, which I often use to introduce the concepts behind Kaizen. I learned a few nuggets about Kaizen from the late Masaki Imai, the author of Kaizen and Gemba Kaizen, and a globally recognized contributor to the famous Toyota production system. Paraphrasing Imai-san, the Kaizen way is embodied through improving the world with everyone, everywhere, every day. So what is Kaizen? Kaizen is a Japanese concept derived from the word kai, meaning change, and zen, meaning good, or change for the better. It is the cornerstone of lean thinking and continuous improvement. Kaizen encourages small incremental changes over time to achieve significant improvements. Why is this important? Well, imagine Kaizen encourages small everywhere, every day. So what is Kaizen? Kaizen is a Japanese concept derived from the word kai, meaning change, and zen, meaning good, or change for the better. It is the cornerstone of lean thinking and continuous improvement. Kaizen encourages small incremental changes over time to achieve significant improvements. Why is this important? Well, imagine trying to bring change to an organization that feels it already has its hands full with projects and profit is still the main driver. By proposing small changes instead of one big intimidating goal, the pressure is reduced and folks are more. Well, imagine trying to and zen, meaning good, or change for the better. It is the cornerstone of lean thinking and continuous improvement. Kaizen encourages small incremental changes over time to achieve significant improvements. Why is this important? Well, imagine trying to bring change to an organization that feels it already has its hands full with projects and profit is still the main driver. By proposing small changes instead of one big intimidating goal, the pressure is reduced and folks are more likely to support new initiatives. Take, for example, a company that produces pumps. They already designed their products to ensure zero emissions of fluids to the atmosphere. However, their operation is not in compliance with local environmental requirements. Because their profitability has dropped, environmental concerns have not been a priority, and by now, the challenge of achieving compliance seemed massive. Enter Kaizen. The company decided to start taking small bites from the big elephant by focusing on one environmental impact at a time. They decided to begin by addressing energy consumption. In order to determine whether an improvement has been made or not, they needed to have a standard in place to measure against. By reviewing electrical specifications, the company first collected data on how much energy the equipment, lighting, and heating should be consuming. The results of that review became the standard. They then compared how much they should be consuming, the standard, against their real consumption, and surprise, they were using over 47% more, which was impacting costs. With a bit of training, all employees were now empowered to look for energy savings, no matter how small. All improvements would add up. Here are a few. Office personnel found ways to reduce lighting, air conditioning, and heating. Operations identified many pieces of equipment that ran even when not producing. Inventory and storage spaces were optimized to reduce heating and air conditioning. Energy-efficient light bulbs were installed throughout the facility. After 6 months, energy consumption had dropped by 25%, and the teams set out to continue finding ways to reduce consumption even more. Starting with small changes, not only did the team achieve a big goal, but they had also been trained on how to look for improvement opportunities and use the new skills to investigate water usage, paint usage, solid and hazardous waste. How will you apply Kaizen to improve the environment and profits? When it comes to continuous improvement, Lean and Kaizen are intertwined, and by starting with small steps, you too can achieve great outcomes. We must always keep in mind that the greatest waste is waste we cannot see. This quote by Dr. Shigeo Shingo, a quality guru and influencer of the Toyota production system, points us to a set of hidden wastes in business. How can we see these wastes? Lean thinking has adopted a list of wastes based on Toyota's production system, known as the 7 wastes, which can affect productivity and efficiency in manufacturing and service industries, as well as healthcare, construction, and more. The 7-letter acronym TIMWOOD is often used to help remember wastes caused by transportation, inventory, motion, waiting, overproduction, overprocessing, and defects. So how can we adapt these to help us see environmental waste? Here are a few ideas. Transportation waste. In order to move parts from point A to point B, we can look for any excess energy used, emissions from engines, damage caused by spills, or any special packaging required to enable transport of materials. Considering inventory needs to be stored, what is the excess cost of lighting, heating, cooling, or ventilation? And how about materials that may need to be discarded due to spoilage? Similarly, consider motion, which is about humans walking, operating equipment, and handling materials. Here too, we must consider the space they occupy and the cost of lighting, heating, and cooling. Anything that is waiting to be processed is taking up space and consuming energy without adding any value. Some chemicals or paints can spoil when waiting is not controlled. Overprocessing means adding activities that are in excess of what is actually required. These activities add costs, but are not paid by the customer. Environmentally, we would be overconsuming energy and materials and possibly increasing emissions while not adding value. Overproduction often means using up resources to produce parts that have not been ordered by a customer. Not only is there excess cost of materials consumed and the energy and emissions not associated with an activity that adds value, but there is also the risk of obsolescence, excess use of chemicals and paints, and additional waste disposal. Lastly, defects which have used up energy and materials will need to be disposed of or reworked, meaning excess energy used in the reprocessing and for heating and cooling the space. Given these points, by aligning the 7 wastes from Lean with environmental waste, we can identify their costs and set out to reduce or eliminate them. This limited comparison should help you align environmental waste with Lean thinking to see things you may have overlooked in the past. How about in your process? keeping in mind that the greatest waste is waste we cannot see. Next time you wear your Timwood lenses, keep an eye out for any waste impacting the environment. One of the cool things lean thinking helps us with is to make the invisible visible. I'm not talking about pulling rabbits out of a hat or other magic tricks. Lean is about bringing hidden problems to the surface so that we can address them head on. One of the ways Lean does this is through a value stream map, or VSM, a diagram that shows every step required to transform a product or service from the time it's ordered until it's delivered to the customer. Because a VSM illustrates all materials and information flows, one can visually determine which activities are creating value and which are not. In other words, a VSM is very useful in identifying waste in a current state map so that the team can come up with ways to reduce the waste and map out a better future state. In our case, let's adapt a traditional VSM to bring potentially hidden environmental waste to the surface. Looking at a specific step of a value stream map, we typically are interested in the process cycle time, available time, time to change over for a different part, batch sizes, and inventory levels. Let's change our lens and look for any potential environmental waste that can be reduced or eliminated. Let's look at opportunities in raw material consumption. First, partner with the experts that work in your environmental area and adopt an icon that denotes environmental opportunities, for example, the symbol ENV. Next, add a line below the time data box that shows how much material is consumed by the process and the actual materials that make part of the product that the customer is willing to pay for. For example, an aluminum component consumes 100 pounds in molding, step 1, and gluing in step 2 consumes 10 pounds, for a total of 110 pounds of materials used up. After molding, the aluminum component weighs 70 pounds, and the glue left on the product weighs 8 pounds, totaling 78 pounds of materials the customer is willing to pay for. The difference between 110 and 78, or 32 pounds, are materials that can be considered waste. A team can target this difference and redesign the process or product to reduce the total amount of wasted material. And how about the energy or water use in each of these processes, or the emissions generated? You can expand your environmental analysis on a VSM by adding data related to water used for cooling in the molding process. Capture how much water should be used and compare against how much is actually being used, and the same for electricity. In the case of water, you can measure actual quantities of wastewater being discharged and look for potential leakages in the process. Similarly, the type of glue in our example might be producing toxic emissions, which is typical in painting and finishing operations. By adding such emissions to a VSM, you can determine future correctives for these environmental hazards. It's time. Start identifying environmental waste in your value stream maps. You might be surprised how many hidden opportunities will pop up to help strengthen your sustainability efforts. Waste loves to hide in cluttered spaces. If your workspace is disorganized and full of materials, old, unused equipment, or personal stuff, chances are waste is lurking in the chaos. And just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not impacting your bottom line. Enter Lean 5S, a system designed not just to organize and clean an area, but also maintain it orderly. The system is comprised of sort to remove unnecessary items and reduce clutter, set in order to set everything in its place and a place for everything, shine or clean to inspect, standardize to ensure consistency, and sustain to drive discipline. Removing clutter and setting things in order practically works like wearing special lenses that let you see waste that was previously blocked by clutter and chaos. Through 5S activities, we're able to see excess inventories, reduce unnecessary motion and transportation, and cut the amount of physical space needed. All of these waste reductions not only benefit the bottom line, but can help reduce heating, cooling, and other energy costs. Plus, less inventories mean less potential obsolescence that may require disposal of materials in a landfill. Shining to inspect is a great element of 5S. It not only works to keep an area clean, but also requires the person doing the cleaning to check for any underlying issues that might cause a problem. For example, while cleaning a pump, you can inspect for any cracks that may point to a bigger problem and can prevent it. Or while cleaning hoses on equipment, one can detect cuts or holes where lubricants or wastewater can leak into the environment. And yet a bigger prize 5S brings is the ease in which the source of contamination can be found. Imagine having to clean up the same debris or spilled oil every single day. Instead, the 5S instruction is to find the source of the waste and get rid of the problem so it doesn't repeat. Think how investigating the source of waste can help reduce environmental impacts. Lastly, through standardization, the 4th S, you can schedule the specific activities needed to ensure everyone knows what to do and when to do it to keep areas in order. While the 5th S, sustain, drives the discipline required to make the 5S a self-sustainable system. I have personally witnessed many aha moments when folks put on their 5S lenses and start noticing waste they had been living with forever. If you're interested in creating a 5S system, watch my course Lean Foundations 5S in the LinkedIn Learning Library to get an in-depth understanding of how this powerful system can help reduce waste of every kind. Humans are constantly inventing new machinery and equipment to produce products in the most effective and efficient way. But what can happen when a machine malfunctions? It can create waste and produce defects which can impact the environment. TPM, or Total Productive Maintenance, is a lean-based methodology meant to maximize equipment uptime by reducing breakdowns and preventing defects. Equipment or machinery that stops working properly can cause oil or water spills and contaminate the environment. In addition, starting and stopping the equipment after it's fixed means we're using up energy and resources while not producing any parts, with a direct hit to profits and environmental costs. A robust TPM program engages everyone in all areas to participate in the prevention of equipment breakdowns, product defects, potential accidents, and spills. To learn about TPM implementation, check out Professor Stephen Brown's courses, Lean Foundations and Lean Six Sigma Foundations. And how about the product that the equipment is designed to make? When a defect is produced, it impacts profits as well as the environment in the form of scrap that needs to be recycled or disposed of. Think also about the potential energy costs or water consumed while producing a part that cannot be delivered to a customer, or the wasted energy needed to rework the part. This is where Poka-yoke, a Japanese concept, comes into play through TPM. It means error-proofing equipment to prevent malfunctions and product defects. Lean thinking aligns with the idea of right the first time, which is meant to prevent defects from happening in the process and avoid the cost of rework. Thinking about the associated environmental waste of rework, would you be happy with equipment making things right the fourth time? I don't think so. One more lean concept related to TPM is Jidoka, often referred to as automation with a human touch. The idea behind Jidoka is to stop equipment immediately should one notice a malfunction or that a bad part was processed. It is meant to immediately address the issue to reduce the amount of non-value-added work which could impact profits and the environment. In my years in lean management, I often engage with my colleagues to take care of equipment by using Benjamin Franklin's famous quote, "An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure." Through the practice of TPM and the associated Poka-yoke and Jidoka, we were successful in preventing accidents, defective parts, and unplanned equipment downtime, which of course benefit the bottom line, but also reduce the pounds of solid waste, water usage, and carbon footprint affected by our processes. So tell me, what ounces of prevention are you ready to implement? Traditional product or process design initiatives often don't consider wasteful activities and their impact on the bottom line or the environment. There's a better, innovative approach that allows organizations to gather insights from the very beginning, leading to cost savings and eco-friendly solutions. It's called Lean 3P. 3P stands for Production, Preparation, Process. It aims at eliminating waste through redesigning products and processes from scratch. This approach helps combine the design of a product to align with its manufacturing process. To run a 3P initiative, start with a clear understanding of your customer expectations. Next, to satisfy those expectations, gather a multidisciplinary team that includes employees, customers, and suppliers, and define an ideal future state. This is a chance to include your environmental experts in any product and process redesign using 3P. Propose alternative processes and workflows that can help reach the future state and run simulations to test your proposals. I often used inexpensive cardboard boxes to model production processes. For example, one of my clients makes locks. They followed a batch and queue approach where large quantities of product were made in batches that sit and wait between process steps, a typical symptom of overproduction. They were swimming in high inventories and constant defects, which then had to be reworked. Plus, carrying inventories required more space and the associated monetary and environmental costs of cooling and heating. After training basic lean principles and 3P principles, the teams were able to redesign the process to one-piece flow and cellular structure, which means parts flow one piece at a time between process steps without waiting. This change resulted in significant reductions in inventory, floor space, and energy requirements, and defects were cut by over 50%. With less defects and less obsolescence, material disposal costs were greatly reduced. Painting and chemical finishing processes are good targets for a 3P redesign. Take, for example, an industrial paint system where only a small percentage of paint actually sticks to the product. The rest of the paint is lost in the form of hazardous emissions and leftover gunk that needs to be cleaned and disposed of. Every color changeover requires purging and cleaning with harmful solvents. Through a 3P process, Toyota, the car maker, changed the type of paint used to a water base to avoid the need for solvents. Additionally, to avoid the cost of purging paint lines, they developed a system of individual color cartridges containing only the amount of paint required to paint each car. So, after each car, a different color cartridge would be used, which reduced the need to flush the lines with solvents. Aside from the benefit to the environment, they reduced the cost of solvents and transportation costs needed for material disposal. 3P also encourages the practice of using right-sized equipment instead of using machinery built with overcapacity. Not only does flexibility increase, but typically the footprint of the equipment is reduced and energy consumption is lowered. My law client, for example, installed individual polishing stations tailored to their specific products to move away from old monument machines that generated excessive amounts of wastewater. Again, less water usage, less energy costs, less inventory, and less floor space. Lean 3P can empower your teams to minimize waste, reduce environmental footprint, and promote sustainability. It not only drives organizations to achieve operational excellence and benefit the bottom line, but also helps cultivate a more environmentally responsible attitude. Consumers like you and me change tastes over time. In such cases, or when the competitive arena shifts, you might have a need to adapt and redesign your operations. No worries, Lean has you covered with a methodology called Lean Facility Layout. What is it? It's a planned approach to designing and organizing workspaces that emphasizes efficiency, waste reduction, and sustainability. Traditional facilities separate processes like cutting, fabrication, machining, and assembly, often with walls dividing each, so materials move between them require material handling devices. This approach often results in production of large batches with high levels of work in process inventory. Remember, every square foot used consumes energy. In contrast, lean plant layouts integrate value-added continuous process steps from raw materials to customer delivery, grouping equipment by product families, which minimizes material handling and inventory. Lean layout design also embraces lean construction, aimed at reducing waste during the construction process while creating energy and water-efficient buildings. Lean construction promotes the use of recycled and recyclable materials. For instance, builders are encouraged to use cellulose insulation derived from recycled newspapers or biodegradable materials like cork or bamboo, and recycled woods instead of newly sourced materials. Choosing prefabricated and modular components also reduces the strain on natural resources and lowers carbon emissions during transportation. And what about leftover materials or demolition waste? Lean construction considers building for easy disassembly and material recovery at the end of their economic life cycle, which can help reduce landfill space and save costs. Energy consumption and greenhouse gas emissions are significantly lowered by adopting renewable energy resources. This is accomplished by installing solar panels, combined with eco-friendly roofing and lighting systems and energy-efficient heating, cooling, and natural ventilation systems. And how about our precious water? Lean construction advocates the use of water-efficient fixtures, installing rainwater collection systems and wastewater recycling systems to minimize water consumption. Given these points, by embracing eco-conscious lean construction and layout design strategies, companies can improve both operational efficiency and environmental sustainability. Less space, less movement, less materials means less costs, and at the same time, less negative impact to our environment. Most organizations that manage their network of suppliers traditionally make decisions based on quality, costs, and delivery performance, while environmental considerations are overlooked. This is in part because costs associated with wastewater treatment, wasted energy related to material storage or landfill disposal charges are not captured adequately as opportunities for financial improvement. In addition, when the relationship between customers and suppliers is focused exclusively on financial gains, environmental sustainability remains under the radar. Perhaps MIT professor Jonathan Burns summed it up well as, many supply chains are perfectly suited to the needs that the business had 20 years ago. Fast forward to the present where lean thinking has reached critical mass. Because lean methodologies specialize in bringing hidden problems to the surface, they can help companies see hidden costs related to supplied products that are impacting your bottom line and the planet. Here are a few suggestions you can implement in your supply chain strategy to contribute to sustainability. Number one, with lean just-in-time production, inventory levels can be lowered along with the required space and reduced energy costs. This should trigger reduced product delivery quantities from your supplier. Through Kaizen continuous improvement activities with your partner suppliers, efficient packaging designs can generate new packaging materials that can be recycled or planned for reduced impact on landfill disposal. Likewise, partnering with a supplier, you can find innovative solutions to reduce the need for hazardous chemicals by replacing them with eco-friendly compounds. This type of innovation typically also reduces transportation costs and wastewater treatment costs, which of course benefits our planet. Use lean methodologies to develop your suppliers and improve product and packaging quality so that the potential for scrap is reduced as well as the risk of chemical spills. Participate your supplier partners in Lean 3P, production, preparation, process activities, to redesign methods and materials with total life cycle in mind, so that the supplier is able to recover those materials at end of life, lowering costs and ecological impact. Finally, empower your lean value stream leaders to manage supplier partners so that there is a more direct responsibility on environmental costs in each product family. This would avoid unclear responsibility of who should address environmental costs related to suppliers. I think you get it. This is a small list of suggestions to pique your creativity. So I also recommend you watch Daniel Stanton's course on implementing supply chain management to open you to even more ideas on adopting lean thinking in your supply chain strategy to reduce costs and benefit our environment. Whatever you do, please consider environmental impacts in supply chain decisions to reduce unforeseen costs and risks so you too can help both the environment and your company's bottom line. After many years of practicing lean, I admit its main focus has been waste reduction for efficiency and productivity gains, often neglecting other types of waste. Perhaps some of these blind spots result from over-focusing on Lean's limited list of 7 wastes, preventing us from seeing other opportunities. That said, I want to recap a nugget of wisdom from Taiichi Ohno, father of the Toyota Production System, where Lean learned many of its methodologies. In the book Workplace Management, Ohno-san is quoted as saying, "Waste is not limited to 7 types. So don't bother thinking about what type of waste is this. Just get on with it and do Kaizen." It's time to change. Go ahead and target pollution and environmental risks for elimination via lean activities to effectively reduce this type of waste. To create a connection between the two, cross-train both areas so you can integrate your environmental personnel into lean implementations and promote alignment between environmental and operational objectives. I also recommend you leverage the knowledge and resources provided by environmental management agencies, which present excellent resources for lean practitioners to further help reduce costly waste and pollution. I hope the lessons on this course have inspired you and you're ready to apply some changes. If you're interested in learning more about Lean, please check out my other courses on Lean and project management topics, Daniel Stanton's courses on supply chain management, Dr. Richard Chua's and Stephen Brown's courses on Lean and operational excellence, and Jim Rogers' course on Lean construction. Let's not pick and choose which wastes we tackle. Let's marry Lean practices with environmental considerations to unlock a powerful synergy to significantly enhance both, improve profits, and save our precious planet.